Ladies and gentlemen, sure, here's an intro to your motivational speech in a confident, warm, and slightly sassy Jessica style. Bold, relatable, and empowering. Hey you, yes you, ever found yourself overthinking your every word, your every move, when you're around a woman you really like? That little voice in your head screaming, "Don't mess this up," while your heart's trying to leap out of your chest. Yeah. There, and today, we're gonna talk about that exact moment. I'm not here to give you cheesy pickup lines or awkward do this, say that scripts. I'm here to give you something way more powerful, real advice, grounded confidence, and a mindset shift that'll change how you talk to women forever. So sit back, breathe, and let's have a real conversation about how to show up as your best self when you're talking to someone you genuinely fancy. Confidence starts with self-respect, not charm. This is where most people get it wrong when trying to talk to someone they're interested in. They focus too much on being liked, on being impressive, on saying the perfect thing at the perfect time. But true confidence doesn't begin with external approval, it begins inside with how you see yourself. When you respect who you are, when you're grounded in your own value, that energy comes across without needing to force it. You don't have to try hard or act like someone you're not, because there's a quiet strength in being comfortable in your own skin. You don't flinch if the conversation hits a pause. You don't spiral if she doesn't instantly laugh at your joke. That kind of security isn't loud or showy. It's calm, steady, and real. Self-respect means you treat yourself like someone worthy of kindness, boundaries, and growth. You don't tear yourself down for making mistakes. You don't beg for attention or over-apologize just to keep someone interested. You speak to yourself with the same dignity you'd offer a close friend, and that energy influences everything. Your tone, your eye contact, your body language. It's not about being arrogant or acting like you're better than anyone. It's about knowing that you are enough, even without trying to perform. When you carry that level of self-respect, it shows up in your posture, in the way you listen, in how you express yourself. You become more attractive not because you're chasing approval, but because you're radiating self-trust. This also means not letting your self-worth depend on someone else's reaction. If she's not interested, it doesn't shake your sense of who you are. If she is interested, you don't start molding yourself into what you think she wants. You stay grounded because your confidence isn't based on the outcome, it's based on your integrity. You value her, yes, but you value yourself just as much. That balance creates the kind of presence that's rare and powerful. Most people can feel when someone is trying too hard. They can sense the anxiety behind forced smiles or compliments that aren't genuine. But they also feel it when someone is relaxed in their truth, when someone shows up without masks or hidden agendas. That kind of energy is magnetic. When you walk into a conversation from a place of self-respect, you don't overthink every word. You trust yourself to handle whatever comes up. You're not trying to impress with fancy lines or big stories. You're focused on real connection, not performance. You're okay with being a little nervous, with not having all the answers, because you're not pretending to be flawless. You're just being you, fully and unapologetically, and that's where true confidence lives. Not in charm, but in truth. You also give her the freedom to show up as her real self, without feeling judged or analyzed. That's rare, that's powerful. That's the kind of energy that shifts everything. It invites honesty, comfort, and chemistry that's not manufactured but mutual. And all of that begins the moment you start respecting your own presence enough to stop proving anything. Listen more than you speak. Presence is magnetic. When most people try to impress someone they fancy, their first instinct is to talk. Talk about their accomplishments, their stories, their humor, their plans, hoping to win attention and admiration. But the truth is, presence isn't about being the loudest or most interesting person in the room. It's about being fully there, engaged, and tuned in. Listening with intention shows confidence, maturity, and respect. It tells the other person that you value what they have to say, that you're not just waiting for your turn to speak, but genuinely interested in who they are. When you listen more than you speak, you create space. Space for the other person to feel seen, heard, and safe. In that space, deeper conversations can happen. You pick up on subtleties, the way she talks about her dreams, her frustrations, her passions. You notice her body language, her tone, the things she's not saying directly but expressing between the lines. This awareness gives you an edge because real connection lives in the details. You can only access those details if you're not distracted by trying to perform or thinking about what to say next. When you're fully present, you start to experience the moment instead of scripting it in your mind. And people feel that. Presence can't be faked. It's the rare quality of someone who's not trying to escape or impress, but simply be. People remember how you made them feel, and few things feel better than being deeply listened to. When you're focused, when you hold eye contact without staring through someone, when you nod because you understand, not because you're trying to agree blindly, it builds a natural sense of trust. You don't have to force chemistry. It grows in the quiet moments of mutual attention. Most men underestimate the power of silence, the strength in a pause, or the magic that comes when you respond thoughtfully instead of instantly. When you give yourself that space to absorb and reflect, your responses are more honest and meaningful. You're not just reacting, you're relating. Listening also helps you avoid assumptions. You don't project your ideas of who she is, you learn who she actually is. That keeps the connection real. You're not treating her like a goal to achieve or a test to pass, but a human being with her own unique perspective. When she sees that you're paying attention, not because you're trying to win her over, but because you genuinely want to understand, that's when barriers drop. That's when walls come down. You also get the chance to show your intelligence and emotional depth in more subtle ways. A well-placed question, a thoughtful reflection, a shared laugh at the right moment, those come from active listening, not rehearsed lines. When you speak less and listen more, you also become more aware of yourself. You notice your own reactions, your nerves, your habits, and you begin to develop a quieter type of confidence, the kind that doesn't need to dominate a room. You stop measuring your worth by how much you can say or prove and start valuing the depth of your attention. That shift changes everything. The energy of someone who is fully present, who listens with care, who is curious without being invasive, is rare. And in a world filled with noise, that quiet, magnetic energy stands out more than anything flashy ever could. Authenticity beats perfection every time. So many people get caught up trying to be what they think someone else wants. They overpolish their words, filter their personalities, and edit themselves down to a version that feels safer, more acceptable, or more impressive. But when you're trying to be perfect, you lose the spark that makes you real. And what makes you real is exactly what draws others in. Perfection is distant and hard to connect with, but authenticity is relatable, human, and magnetic in its own way. It's in the little quirks, the imperfections, the honest opinions, and the genuine reactions. That's where trust lives. That's where attraction deepens. When you're authentic, you're not worried about saying the most clever thing in the room or impressing someone with your highlight reel. You speak from a place of truth, and truth has power. People might not always agree with you, but they'll respect you more for showing up as yourself. You don't need to fake confidence when you're honest about who you are. There's a grounded type of confidence that comes from owning your flaws, laughing at your awkward moments, and still believing in your worth. That kind of energy creates ease in the room. The person you're talking to doesn't feel like they have to perform either. You create a space where real connection can happen. Authenticity is also about consistency. It's not just about how you act when you're trying to make a good impression, but how you carry yourself when no one's watching, or when the conversation isn't going exactly how you imagined. When you're not trying to manipulate the outcome and instead focus on showing up truthfully, people sense that. It's refreshing to meet someone who isn't trying to wear a social mask, someone who's not afraid to say, "I'm a little nervous," or "I don't have all the answers, but here's what I think." That kind of honesty builds connection faster than any perfectly polished line ever could. Trying to be perfect also adds pressure. You overthink your every word, you analyze their every reaction, and suddenly the interaction doesn't feel fun anymore. It feels like a test you might fail. But when you show up as your authentic self, you don't have to carry that pressure. You're not performing, you're just being, and that allows you to enjoy the moment, to flow with the conversation, to relax into the present. You stop needing to control how you're perceived and start focusing on how you feel. That shift is powerful. It helps you move from insecurity to alignment, from fear to freedom. Being real also means being vulnerable in the right ways. It doesn't mean oversharing or dumping your life story in the first 5 minutes. It means being willing to be seen, even in the small ways. It means saying what you actually feel, even when you're not sure how it'll be received. It means not hiding your sense of humor, your passions, or your opinions just because you're afraid of judgment. Vulnerability takes strength, and people are drawn to that kind of courage. They might not always say it, but they notice when you're brave enough to be real. When you stop aiming for perfection and start choosing authenticity, you attract the kind of connections that last. You give others the freedom to be authentic too, and in a world full of filters and facades, being real is one of the rarest and most attractive things you can be. Not everyone will click with the real you, but the ones who do, that's where the magic lies. That's where conversations go deeper, laughter gets louder, and something meaningful begins to take root without effort or pretends chat. GPT said, "Don't seek validation, share connection." This shift in mindset changes everything about how you approach someone you're attracted to. When you're seeking validation, every interaction becomes a test of your worth. You're waiting for signs that you're good enough, attractive enough, interesting enough. You start measuring your value based on how she responds, what she says, how much she smiles, how quickly she replies, or how long she looks into your eyes. That kind of mindset turns the whole experience into a game of approval, where you're constantly second, guessing yourself and trying to live up to an invisible standard that doesn't even belong to you. When you're operating from a place of needing validation, you're not truly present in conversation. You're stuck in your head wondering if she likes you, trying to say the right thing, trying to impress, trying to avoid messing up. You're not listening to her, you're listening to your doubts. And those doubts are loud. They make you feel like you have to perform, to entertain, to constantly prove that you're worthy of her time and attention. But when you approach the conversation from a place of connection, everything changes. You're not trying to win anything. You're simply sharing space with another human being, curious about who they are, open to what might happen, and grounded in your own sense of worth. Connection comes from curiosity, not control. You're not trying to control the outcome. You're not chasing compliments or attention. You're not adjusting your personality just to match hers. You're being yourself and letting her see you, while taking the time to see her too. That kind of openness allows real conversations to unfold. You're no longer trying to prove that you're desirable. You're focused on discovering if there's something genuine between you two, something beyond surface level attraction or polite small talk. When you stop seeking validation, you start valuing your own experience. You pay attention to how you feel around her. Are you relaxed or tense? Do you feel inspired or drained? Are you enjoying the moment, or are you just trying to survive it? You become more aware of your own emotional responses, which helps you navigate the situation with clarity instead of anxiety. You start to recognize that you have just as much choice and voice in the interaction as she does. This gives you a quiet confidence, not the kind that needs to dominate or impress, but the kind that knows its own worth. Sharing connection means being present. It means making eye contact without fear, asking thoughtful questions, and listening with genuine interest. It means letting silences breathe without panicking, and allowing laughter to rise naturally without trying to force it. It means speaking honestly, not perfectly. When you engage from this place, you're not trying to get something out of her. You're not fishing for compliments or hoping for validation. You're showing up as someone who respects himself and respects her. And that energy is magnetic because it's rare. Most people can sense when someone is needy for approval. They can feel the desperation in the tone, the forced effort in the words, the tension in the air. But they can also sense when someone is at ease, when someone is confident without arrogance, curious without pressure, engaged without expectation. That's the kind of presence that builds trust quickly. That's the kind of interaction that feels safe, interesting, and refreshing. When you come from connection instead of validation, rejection doesn't sting the same way. It doesn't become a personal failure. It just means the connection wasn't there, and that's okay. You move forward without losing your sense of self. You keep showing up again and again with honesty, openness, and a mindset rooted in growth, not approval. Rejection isn't failure, it's redirection. This is one of the hardest truths to accept when it comes to talking to someone you really like. The fear of being turned down can paralyze even the most confident person. But when you shift your perspective, when you start seeing rejection not as something that diminishes you, but as something that guides you, you take back your power. You stop treating every interaction like a win or lose situation. You stop putting pressure on yourself to always be perfect or always get the answer you want. You begin to understand that every time someone says no, it's not a reflection of your worth. It's a step toward the connection that's actually meant for you. Most people experience rejection and instantly take it personally. They internalize it as a message that they're not good enough, not attractive enough, not interesting enough. But rejection isn't always about you. Sometimes it's timing, sometimes it's energy, sometimes it's her own life, her own preferences, her own story that has nothing to do with you at all. When you understand that, you stop letting rejection define your confidence. You stop letting it become a reason to shrink, to hide, to avoid trying again. You start seeing it as a tool, a signal that points you in a better direction. Redirection means growth. It means learning what does and doesn't align with you. It means discovering more about what kind of person actually brings out the best in you. Rejection teaches you to handle discomfort with grace. It sharpens your emotional intelligence. It helps you detach your self-esteem from external approval. Every time you get rejected and keep moving forward, you build resilience. You prove to yourself that you're not fragile. You're flexible, you can bend, but you won't break. That kind of inner strength is priceless because it follows you into every future interaction, every opportunity, every new connection. Rejection also forces you to reflect. What worked, what didn't, what felt authentic, and what felt forced. It gives you the chance to assess your mindset, your approach, your level of presence. Maybe you were too focused on impressing. Maybe you weren't listening closely. Or maybe you were fully yourself and it simply wasn't the right fit. Either way, the experience is valuable. It sharpens your self-awareness. It pushes you to refine, not retreat. And in that refining process, you become more honest, more grounded, and more prepared for the kind of connection that actually lights you up. When you stop fearing rejection, you start taking more chances. You speak more freely, you initiate more conversations, you show up with more boldness because you're no longer waiting for permission to be seen. You're not playing it safe, you're not walking on eggshells. You're standing in your truth, knowing that rejection might happen, and that's okay, because what you gain from putting yourself out there is always greater than what you lose by staying silent. You stop holding back your personality, your humor, your opinions. You stop editing yourself just to avoid the risk of discomfort. You start trusting that the right person won't need you to perform, and that the wrong person isn't worth bending for. Rejection reminds you that you are not for everyone, and that's not a weakness, it's a gift. It allows you to let go of what doesn't resonate and move toward what does. It filters out what isn't aligned. It makes space for what's real. When you embrace rejection as redirection, you stop chasing and start choosing. You realize that you have power in the process too. You're not just hoping to be picked. You're deciding who you want to connect with, who makes you feel alive, who matches your energy, your vision, your pace. And every no brings you closer to that yes that actually matters.